Greetings, everyone. It's great to be here back at my alma mater. Walking around the campus is so charming. In fact, the smells are still the same and takes me back. Of course, I got my start in philosophy here. I was lured away from the study of English into the study of philosophy by the great professors in the Department of Philosophy. So it's wonderful and meaningful for me to be here doing philosophy in front of them, with them, for them. And thank you all for coming. This is part of something that I'm working on right now. My current book project is tentatively entitled On Meaningful Work, and it's an examination of the purpose of work within the human life, arguing primarily that work is an important component of living well. I tried to provide several ideas about what makes work meaningful, so hopefully this will get people thinking about choices of work for your own life, especially the young people here. And about the place of work in the human condition. So let me start with a quote from an excellent book called Good Work by E.F. Schumacher. This is a 20th century thinker, primarily an economic theorist and a philosopher who wrote widely on technology, the nature of knowledge, and economic principles. So Schumacher writes, in response to a question that is often asked in educational contexts, particularly when people are thinking about how we can prepare young people for the future world of work. Obviously, things like critical thinking skills and technical knowledge come to mind, but Schumacher highlights the following idea. We should prepare the young to be able to distinguish between good work and bad work and encourage them not to accept the latter. I might also add that we should encourage them not to push stultifying work onto other people as well. That is to say, they should be encouraged to reject meaningless, boring, stultifying, or nerve-wracking work in which the man or woman is made the servant of a machine or a system. They should be taught that work is a joy of life and needed for our development, and that meaningless work is an abomination. So my talk is very much in the spirit of this quote, and I'd like to get us thinking about why work is part of a joyful life. To start out with, a little bit of empirical sociological data on everyday attitudes that people in the United States tend to have about working. It's clear from this that we don't have a coherent ideology of work. On the one hand, often people will report that they find their working lives not a source of happiness or satisfaction. That is to say, they're drained at the end of the day, work is exhausting, or it's not stimulating. It's primarily just downtime or dead time. That is to say, it's very boring, in contrast to one's exciting leisure life. Sometimes it's psychologically diminishing. That is to say, one feels made smaller by one's work rather than developing. Sometimes, at its worst, it can be personally humiliating. If one is made to feel that one is incompetent by one's superiors or colleagues, you might feel humiliated, or you might just feel that your work is not particularly significant. So on the one hand, there's a common kind of view or attitude toward work, that it is not a source of satisfaction for one's life, but that it is a kind of necessary evil. A means to an end. For you as a worker, you might see work as a kind of means to a paycheck, or a means to self-sufficiency, a means to supporting a family, a means to a flourishing leisure life. Yet, on the other hand, there are also indications that people do value work as an activity in and of itself. That is to say, they place inherent or intrinsic value upon work. This is a study that's been repeated many times, in fact. These are meta-studies reported by authors Ginny and Sullivan in an article in the Journal of Business Ethics. So over and over, these researchers ask people, suppose in a hypothetical scenario you either inherit a sum of money or perhaps you win the lottery, and you no longer have to work because of necessity. Would you continue to work anyway? This is the question posed over and over in some form to people of various occupations, both professional and blue-collar, both men and women. And over, a vast majority of respondents will say yes, they will continue to work, even if hypothetically they did not need to work. Here's some of the particular data. The vast majority, 80% of all respondents reply positively, even though the percentage is slightly higher for professional and white-collar workers, where the percentage is 86% report that they would work even if they did not have to because of economic necessity. That percentage is slightly higher for the professional workers than for blue-collar workers, where the percentage is 76%, still substantial. Interestingly, more men than women will report that they would continue to work even if they did not have to. But even 64% of women surveyed say they would continue to work if they did not have to. So although the particular figures will vary as the study is repeated time and time again, but primarily a substantial majority of people will report that they would continue to work even if they don't have to. And of course, this exists at the same time that people will often report that their jobs are dead time or downtime, boring, at the worst humiliating, or ultimately unimportant. So we have here an apparent contradiction, and I ask those of you who are students in the audience, what do you make of this, and how might you explain the discrepancy between the fact that on the one hand, many people report that they do not find satisfaction in their work, and then on the other hand, many people also report that they would continue to work even if they did not have to work. How would you explain this discrepancy? Yes? Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, sometimes people might not find satisfaction in their current job, but they envision themselves possibly finding a satisfying career life in some other field of work. Yeah, other ideas. Yes, in the orange?
Well, I was thinking that sometimes the job you work defines you as a person. You may lose yourself if you don't work.
Uh-huh. Yeah, excellent suggestion. Work as a source of self-definition. When you introduce yourself to someone, you say, hello, I'm a carpenter. Without a job, you might feel a loss of identity. Very good. Yes, in the gray.
I was going to say, whereas maybe one time, many years ago, where everyone had to work really hard to sort of achieve a basic quality of life before they could go on to attempt to find jobs that fulfill them as a person as well. Sort of now, at least in our society, we're all by default provided with a quality of life usual sufficient for survival. So a lot of times those in-between jobs should, or at least we try to make them, sort of stepping stones to the real jobs that we want. And I think most people see that there's jobs they want to do in the world, but there's a lot of just really crappy work they have to do to get there.
So they're thinking about the stepping stone occupations, perhaps, when they're reporting that they find work humiliating or unimportant, but they're looking down the road to the possibility of a satisfying career, yes. Also, I think you were indicating in your comment that there's a certain kind of Protestant work ethic drilled in us that might explain the need to report a socially acceptable answer when asked by researchers whether they would necessarily work. Good. Well, I like those suggestions. My own theory takes off perhaps the most from the second comment that we heard about the importance of work in self-definition. The notion in my book is that on some level, many people will realize upon reflection that participating in work that is meaningful or challenging or fulfilling, stimulating, work that expresses one's personal values, work that is an important part of one's self-definition. That kind of work is necessary for living well, and I think it's not difficult to appreciate the basic idea behind this. So when people report that they would work, even if they did not have to out of economic necessity, they might be on some level realizing that some forms of work are important for their fulfillment or self-definition. So the main argument of my book is this idea that meaningful work, or you might put it in other terms, challenging work, fulfilling work, satisfying work, is a necessary component of flourishing. Those of you who are philosophy students might be familiar with the concept of human flourishing. It goes back to Aristotle's ideas about living well. So the idea is that you might make a distinction between living on the one hand, getting by in your life, having the basics like food, water, and so forth, and on the other hand, having the goods that are necessary for becoming human existence,